President Akufo-Addo to make corruption a serious capital offense. Ghana Journalists Association launches revised code of ethics. A very good evening. You're live on GTV and GBC24, your own news channel. Welcome to News Hour. My name is Ofriwa Dako. In our first report, the President Nana Akufo-Addo says he intends to propose to Parliament to revise the asset declaration procedure and make corruption a felony and serious capital offense. In discussions with members of the Christian Council of Ghana at the Flagstaff House in Accra, Nana Akufo-Addo said the revision and other strategies will help fight corruption in the country.
The executives of the Christian Council of Ghana were at the presidency, first to congratulate President Akufo-Addo for his victory and also to commend him for introducing policies intended to ensure economic transformation of the country. The presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Most Reverend Titus Awochi Pratt, thanked the president for appointing a chieftaincy religious affairs minister and supporting the idea of the construction of a national cathedral.
Your stance on corruption, keeping safe the public purse, on sanitation and environment, national identification, time management, and being proud of being a Ghanaian add more luster to your overriding determination to make our country progressive, stable, and productive. In spite of the signs of progress so far registered, Mr. President, there are, however, some glitches such as the transition period challenges which should be addressed, and we will trust that you have the team and the stamina to accomplish them.
The President, Nana Akufo-Addo, called for constructive criticisms from the Christian Council to keep him on his toes at all times.
We live in a rich country. The potential of our country is enormous. And really, if we put our minds to it and all of us behave properly in Ghana and give it our best shot, we shouldn't be where we are now. I think the more we hear from you about the conditions of our economy, the way our people are living, the better for all of us. It shouldn't be a matter left just to politicians to talk amongst themselves. It's a matter that concerns the entire society, and you are society's leaders, and it is good that our people were here. We can do much better than what we have done so far, and all of us should make it our purpose to work towards making that better outcome that we want.
President Akufo-Addo reiterated his commitment to ensuring that every Ghanaian benefits from the national cake.
Part of it, of course, is the fight against corruption. It's become a major issue because in the last few years, the perception of how government has behaved has not been positive. In fact, it's been quite negative. We can't continue to go down that road. We're going to need your help, because your moral advocacy and the moral stature, and individually and collectively you represent in our country, is an invaluable assistance in such a fight. I've insisted at the very outset that my ministers all declare their assets, and by Wednesday a formal statement will come before the country that they have all indeed filed and declared and filed their assets. There are all kinds of small gestures that need to be made to signal the determination to take on this issue of corruption in public life. I intend, in fact, to bring legislation before the Parliament, revising the assets declaration procedure. One of them, of course, is also, I've indicated already, the determination to make corruption a felony and a serious capital, as it were, capital offense in the hierarchy of laws of offenses in our country. We are going to establish this Office of Special Prosecutor. It will be done in the next 2 or 3 months, God willing, and that is also going to be a focal point of this very important battle that all of us have to wage against corruption.
The president said he expects all, especially public officials, to remain dedicated to their duties to make Ghana a better place for all.
The 4 deputy regional ministers designate appeared before the Appointments Committee of Parliament to justify their inclusion in the Nana Akufo-Addo-led government.
Within 2 weeks, 10 suicide cases have been reported in the country, with 2 of the victims being students in tertiary institutions. The Appointment Committee of Parliament asked the Deputy Western Regional Minister designate, Mrs. Gifty Eugenia Kusi, if she could explain the causes and how to address the phenomenon, considering her rich experience in the health sector.
I think, in the first place, the amount of money going into the mental health department should be increased for them to be able to work to the full benefit of their capacities. And I also suggest that universities should expand their counseling departments for especially young people, even not the universities. We should also get training colleges. I know there are counselors attached to most of these institutions, but their departments should be strengthened.
The MPs also quizzed the nominee on some social vices and problems within her region: teenage pregnancy, women involved in illegal mining and commercial sex workers. Next to appear before the committee was the Deputy Greater Accra Regional Minister designate, Mrs. Elizabeth Tawiasaki. She said if her nomination was approved, she would collaborate with the MMDAs to tackle the problem of open defecation, congestion, land guards and promote tourism within the capital.
The nominee is a very experienced marriage counselor. These days it's become too common for the woman to say I'm leaving and for the men to happily bid goodbye. You want to share your experience with this house, what you have acquired over the years, which accounts for some of the broken homes.
You do not allow your expectation to be more than what your husband can do for you. That's the first keynote. You should live within your means and be patient enough and very prayerful. And when you are being able to do all those things that I'm mentioning, I cannot lecture you here this morning, but when there is time, I'll come to Parliament and seek permission and probably have marriage counseling, and then we can carry it to our constituency. Yeah, but I remember not quite long, I told Henry that I'm going to form parliamentarians Wives Association, and he said so I'll later get to know and then we'll address it.
Also at Tuesday's vetting was the Deputy Ashanti Regional Minister designate, Mrs. Elizabeth Ajimine. If approved, she said she would restore Kumasi to its former status as the Garden City and assist the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital to complete a stalled maternity block project. She also pledged to team up with the relevant state agencies and ministries to fight the Galamsey menace in her region. Mr. Solomon Namnit-Boy is the Deputy Northern Regional Minister designate. He explains that he would assist the substantive minister to bring more development to the north and give particular attention to women in the region.
Parliament has marked Commonwealth Day with a debate among students in the country's universities on the feasibility of the free SHS education policy proposed by the government. The Students' Parliament of the University of Cape Coast emerged winners in the competition. The debate is held every year as part of efforts by the leadership of Parliament to prepare the youth for future engagements as parliamentarians and bring the activities to the doorstep of the public.
The Commonwealth is an international association made up of the UK together with 53 states that were previously part of the British Empire. The day is celebrated on the second Monday in March every year. Member countries include Australia, Britain, Canada, Ghana, India, Jamaica, Malaysia, New Zealand and Nigeria. This year's celebration is on the theme, A Peace-Building Commonwealth. Funding of government's free education policy was the topic for the debate, which involved students in 6 of the country's universities. Some believe the idea is workable, others think otherwise. The competing schools, the University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast, University of Development Studies, University of Professional Studies, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and the Islamic University make their submissions either for or against the motion. After the first round, 3 institutions, the University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast and UDS, made it to the final round.
A country like Uganda, whose GDP in 1997 was 12 billion and their population was 22.0 million, and Ghana, whose GDP right now is about 37 billion and our total population is also around 27 million, were able to implement free education, and from there their economy was actually boosted. We believe that based on that precedence, Ghana can actually implement this policy.
We believe that free SHS at this time of our economy, in this age and time of our country, is a complete misplaced priority. Why do I say so? 1, let's look at the statistics. In 2011, the pass rate of the WASI is 26%. 2012, 31%. 2013, 19%. 2014, 28.1%. If this doesn't horrify you, wait for what to scare you. Out of these 28.11% who passed in 2014, only 30% of these qualify for tertiary institutions. If you want to bring about free senior high schools, you have to train more teachers. You have to build more schools. Where is government going to get all these monies? NHIS is crumbling. We are not even able to dispense common feeding grants to schools.
Is it feasible? Those who are saying it's not feasible are not saying that we don't have the money. What they are saying, or the close argument they can ever make, is that we may end up putting all our eggs in one basket. But let me tell you, for cost, a very wise king lives in Ghana. His name is Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II. In 2015, he addressed the Ghana Bar Association in their conference in Kumasi. He made a very emphatic statement about cost, and it is very useful. Let's listen. He said, "In our consideration of such matters that are so fundamental for the development and future happiness of our country, cost should not be a stumbling block against pursuing what is best and desirable." We see free education as a cause of freedom, and so that is why we from the University of Ghana are standing up in the lyrics of our school anthem. We stand up for the cause of this freedom.
After an hour of exhibiting their debating prowess, UCC came top. University of Ghana placed second, while University of Development Studies took the third position. The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Joseph Osei-Owusu, challenged the students to think outside the box and make wise career choices for their own future and the country's advancement. In a message, the head of the Commonwealth, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, stressed the importance of understanding and respect for one another as principle for peaceful coexistence among the nations of the world.
Even those who are trained abroad, they come here and they become like you and me. Is there something wrong in our collective programming of mind? That is what I call culture. What is it that we are not doing right? I challenge you, men and women, young men and women today, to think beyond the horizon. Look elsewhere. Should we continue to use hools and cutlasses? If not, what can the engineers do differently? What is it that we don't have? What is making us lag behind our European members in the Commonwealth?
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority (GPHA) wants Parliament to amend the current operating laws at the Tema Port to give the authority more powers to throw out agencies whose activities impede operations at the port. The Acting Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Mr. Paul Ansasari, made the request when the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade and Tourism visited the port to see the operational challenges at the port.
Over 24 state agencies that operate at the Tema Port have the legal backing to check smuggling of goods, mobilize revenue, and also ensure that the public is consuming safe product that enters the market. But over the years, importers and exporters have complained that these state institutions impede business activities at the port. With the government's intention of creating a business-friendly atmosphere for the private sector to thrive, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade and Tourism visited the Tema Port to find out the challenges that confront the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority in its operations. The Acting Director General of the GPHA, Mr. Paul Ansari, told the legislators that there are too many agencies at the port with duplicated roles that make business at the port difficult.
We are going to activate that initiative strongly to make sure that the GPHA going forward becomes stronger in terms of administration of the port, to be able to take some bold decisions and initiatives that will put our industry on international level.
Mr. Ansan suggested that all public-private partnership agreements with the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority for infrastructure development be reviewed.
All agreements, all contracts will be taking a second look, right? Where there's a need to review, it will be reviewed. Where there's a need to let it go, it will be let go.
The parliamentarians visited the customs long room, the shipyard and the port expansion project sites.
Away from that report, Ghana and Germany have agreed to strengthen their cooperation in electronic waste management and recycling. A document that sets the framework to deal with the environmental impact of e-waste in the country has been presented to the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation in Accra. A report by Michelin Taka.
Technology advances at such a high rate, many electronic devices become obsolete and unwanted with time and therefore discarded. What is of concern to health experts is the health dangers it poses on human existence and the environment. It is in this light that the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation has partnered with the German embassy to find best ways of managing waste in Ghana. The Ghana ambassador to Germany, Mr. Christoph Reslov, presented the document that sets the structures for a project to deal with electronic waste collection and recycling in the country. He was optimistic that a project will reduce the environmental impact of e-waste in Ghana.
Ghana has sadly gained notorious fame for the waste site of Akpobloshi. This place is now a worldwide known negative example where the nearby river takes toxic substances into the sea and toxic smoke is blown into the atmosphere. We want to set the right incentives to get the most harmful substances out of the current system and have them recycled in a sustainable way. There are, of course, no easy solutions to the topic and the situation in Ghana. Nevertheless, we expect that our experience and our commitment to this specific sector can prove useful for Ghana.
The Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, highlighted the health hazards of e-waste and expressed appreciation for the support from the German government.
There's an urgent need for sound management of electronic waste because we are generating e-waste on a daily basis. And Ghana has to take urgent steps to position herself to better manage good health for her citizens of today and in the future, as well as reap economic benefits of recycling electronic waste. It is my expectation that this project will lay a strong foundation for proper management of electronic waste.
The project will introduce innovative risk-free collection methods and also provide incentives to prevent hazardous means of recycling electronic waste, among others. Michelin Taka, GBC24, Accra.
The Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, has revised its code of ethics. The new code seeks to ensure that members of the GJA adhere to the highest ethical standards, professionalism and good behavior in carrying out their duties. The revised code takes cognizance of all the ethical breaches that have been identified in the practice of journalism in the wake of new media.
The proliferation of media outlets continue to affect the work of journalists the world over. Media outlets have to compete with each other, especially in terms of speed and accuracy, and this comes with its own challenges, with media houses throwing caution to the wind. There's also the issue of new media, with citizen journalists presenting a lot of challenges to the practice of journalism. With the traditional media competing and adopting stories from social media, a lot of breaches have been identified in the work of media persons. Issues of false stories, fabrications, authentication and presenting advertisement and promotional materials as news continue to dominate. According to the president of the GJA, Mr. Roland Afel-Moni, the new code will help distinguish between the professional journalists and the others.
The proliferation of media outlets and the mushrooming of practitioners pose a challenge to the ordinary media consumer to distinguish between a professional and someone who masquerades as such. But by their fruits of ethical conduct or misconduct, we know them.
The GJA developed and adopted its Code of Ethics in 1994. The revision to this code is coming at a time many say is appropriate. This is to make the media more responsible and accountable.
The journalist must ask, what do I know and what do I need to know? What is my journalistic purpose? What are my ethical concerns? What professional guidelines should I consider? How can I include other people in my thinking as I do my work? Who are the stakeholders? Who are affected by my decision? What are their motivations? What is legitimate? We must ask these questions because, above all, the consequences of our actions affect many people.
Launching the code, the Minister for Information, Mr. Mustafa Hamid, said ethics form the basis of every human society. He encouraged the journalists to abide by the Code of Ethics since it will give a sense of organization and order to their work.
It is our ethics that gives us a sense of organization, a sense of discipline, a sense of order, and a sense of our humanness. And therefore, every society or organization ought to take its ethics seriously. Otherwise, it is not worth its name.
The GJA Code of Ethics 2017, supported by Frederick Herbert Stephen Ghana, comes in a more comprehensive manner. Its format is a simple 11-paged book or the poster. The GJA is calling on all categories of journalists working with newspapers, radio, television, multimedia or online media, among others, to abide by the simple guiding principles of their work. Akpene Avo Ajaja, GBC24, Accra.
You're still watching News Hour. The business news is up next.
Hello, good evening and welcome for the business segment of the news. I am Dorothy Ajimine. Nigerian economist and founder of the United Bank of Africa UBA, Tony Elumelu, has assured President Nana Akufo-Addo of the bank's support for the government's one district, one factory policy. This came up when Mr. Elumelu called on President Akufo-Addo at the Flagstaff House to discuss the role of the private sector in the revival of the Ghanaian economy.
Mr. Tony Oyemenchi Olumelu was at the Flagstaff House to congratulate President Akufo-Addo for winning the 2016 general elections in the country. He was accompanied by the top executives of the United Bank for Africa in Ghana. Discussions between the two centered on the relationship between government and the private sector and policies instituted to support the growth of the private sector in Ghana. Mr. Elumelu said the UBA has in the last 3 years supported the government with $1 billion to stabilize the Ghana cedi. He commended the president and his government for the tax reliefs and waivers in the 2017 budget statement and other critical policies outlined to ensure economic growth with the private sector at the forefront.
We would like to associate with your government. We would like to support your government any way possible, both in banking and in our other engagements. Beyond banking, the kind of gave its holdings United Bank of Africa is one of the businesses we have invested in. We also have interest in other areas, from real estate, hospitality, to oil and gas, to power. We are the biggest generators of electricity in Nigeria today. I'm aware of the one factory, one local government area. I would have a conversation with the CEO and see how immediately we can support your efforts in this area.
Right. That's really great. So I'm going to hold you.
President Akufo-Addo said his government's task is to create the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive.
They're coming to facilitate the doing of business, increase the business confidence in Ghana, and by that way, develop Ghana rapidly. And we think that the private sector, the Ghanaian private sector, the private sector writ large, is the way forward for us. And we're going to do whatever we can. Already the first budget of our government has come, and it has pointed the way to how we intend to handle the private sector. Yeah, the first budget, yes. We've removed many of the impediments that there is to the doing of business in Ghana. There's a lot more work we have to do, but we've already started signaling to the private sector that whatever we can do from the part of government to enable the private sector to strengthen and grow and develop, that's the way we want to go. And we want to signal to the private sector that we mean business when we say we want the private sector to play this catalytic role. So we're counting on UBA to have a good understanding of where we are, what we're doing and where we're going, and especially to be in the position to fund these critical areas: agricultural development, industrial development.
President Akufo-Addo urged Mr. Elumelu to support Ghanaian entrepreneurs to make them competitive in the world.
Gratis Foundation, an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, says for a successful implementation of the One District, One Factory policy, government must consider procuring 90% of the agro-processing equipment manufactured locally, which the foundation is ready to produce. The chief executive of the foundation, Mr. Emmanuel Asiedu, who spoke exclusively to GBC24 in Tema, said the policy is achievable.
Gratis Foundation, an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry, was established in 1987. The foundation is mandated to promote industrialization and dissemination of appropriate technologies in all the regions of the country. The fufu pounding machine, the palm kernel, and shea nut processing machines are among technologies that have been introduced by the Gratis Foundation. Over the years, the foundation has not been able to deliver on its mandate of industrialization due to the lack of support from government. In 2014, Gratis proposed to set up 200 processing centers in all the districts, and this was captured in the budget, but the government failed to make allocation for the proposal. The chief executive of the Gratis Foundation, Mr. Emmanuel Asiedu, said the foundation is ready to support the government's One District, One Factory policy.
We have not been able to live to a mandate as it should because of the financial constraints. I will say that various governments, I wouldn't mention a particular government, but various governments have not actually provided what is actually needed for Gratis to do. Me, as a government institution, as a technocrat, I'm prepared to work with whichever government who want to implement this One District, One Factory. And all my knowledge and energy, I want to do that. Because, my brother, if we're able to do that, it will mark the beginning of industrialization of Ghana. In fact, no country in this world has ever developed without industrialization.
Although about 60% of Ghanaians are into farming, currently the country loses 1.7 billion Ghana cedis every year in post-harvest losses. This is because 40% of all farm products go to waste. Experts say food processing is the solution to the problem, and the One District, One Factory policy is the way to go.
Because we have our raw material here in the form of agric products, if we want to affect the 70% of our people who are involved in agric, and to make worth for everybody in the country, that is the only way out. Because you go and set up the factory there, it's not, the factory itself may not employ so many people, but before and after, the farmers, the land even acquisition, those who may sell their land, those who till the land, even the seedlings, those who nurse them, those who plant them, those who weed, those who do the harvesting, and those who even cut it and bring it to the factory, and those who work in the factory, and those who sell even after the factory. But my small calculation, more than 1 million people are going to be affected with the 216 factories that are going to be. So Gratis is already in the middle of it.
According to the Gratis Foundation, the type and size of factory to be set up must depend on the availability of raw materials and the needs of the district to ensure continuous operations throughout the year. The foundation has acquired a computer numerically controlled machine and other equipment that can produce agri-processing plants and its parts locally.
I urge all those who want to do that, please, we originated this. The ideas are there. As at now, almost every district, whatever factories to be set up in the district, I have them. And I've costed the whole project. And what have you? The things are there for us to do implementation. What I want to plead with them is that it will not be in the interest of this country for us to get the machines from outside. 90% of it, we should make them here. When it comes to machine acquisition or setting up factories, the initial cost mostly is not too much an issue, but the running costs.
For a start, Gratis Foundation is recommending a small and medium-scale factory with a capacity of 0.5 tons per hour to 2 tons per hour for effective operations.
You're still watching News Hour on GBC24 and GTV. Moving on the interbank market, the pound is selling at 5 cedis 61 pesos, the US dollar at 4 cedis 59 pesos, and the euro is also trading at 4 cedis 90 pesos. That's it for business. The health segment comes up after this break. Please do stay.
Welcome to the health segment. A renowned scientist in human genetics, Professor Phyllis Konote-Ahulu, says it is important for every Ghanaian, especially those of childbearing age, to know the status of the hemoglobin in their red blood cells. Professor Ahulu says it is the only way to determine whether one has an abnormal hemoglobin or sickle cell or carries the sickle cell trait, usually referred to as ACE code. According to Professor Phyllis Konote-Ahulu, 1 out of every 3 Ghanaians has an abnormal hemoglobin, and this is said to be hereditary.
Hemoglobin is the protein in the red blood cells that transports oxygen to the entire body. In its normal state, it is round in the shape of a donut, otherwise known as the norm code. In the abnormal state, it is hard, sticky and shaped like sickles, a farm implement used in cutting wheat, otherwise known as ACE code. When they go through the blood vessels, they clog the blood vessels or impede the flow of blood and break apart. This causes chronic pain, damage and low blood count. There are 4 main types of sickle cell disease: hemoglobin SS, hemoglobin SC, hemoglobin SB+, or beta thalassemia, and beta zero thalassemia. The commonest is the hemoglobin SS and hemoglobin SC. Recent studies indicate that about 2% of Ghanaian newborns are affected by sickle cell disease, and a third of Ghanaians have sickle cell.
If you norm ACE and you marry another norm ACE, there is the possibility that the first 4 children could be ACE. I had an unfortunate family in Ghana where father and mother were entirely healthy. The first child was born and had sickle cell anemia. A boy also had sickle cell anemia, ache. The third child had sickle cell anemia, ache. The fourth child, another boy, had sickle cell anemia, ache. They were furious because somebody had told them that there was only a 1 in 4 chance of having the disease. That is not true. That is a genetic gamble.
Sickle cell symptoms can begin to show in babies as early as within the first 4 months of their lives. They include fatigue or irritability from anemia, fussiness, bedwetting associated with kidney problems, jaundice, swelling in the hands and feet, as well as frequent infections and chest pain.
Nobody suffers from cold season rheumatism or sickle cell disease without inheriting an ache code from the father plus an ache code from the mother. One ache code is not enough to tip somebody into an aching crisis. When you are going to become pregnant, only one of your 2 ache codes is passed on to the child. And that ache code happens to join that of your husband as well, because he's ache. And all his sperm contain 1 ache code.
Sickle cell has no cure, and more reason why Professor Felix Konote Ahulu encourages everyone to know their status through blood tests.
1 in 3 of us is carrying an abnormal hemoglobin. You may be carrying an abnormal hemoglobin and you don't know. And you wait until the child is born and you see the hands and feet. They say, ah! So the aim is to make you aware that you need to find out what your ache situation is.
Treatment involves intake of high fluid, folic acid supplements, good nutrition, rest, and the use of pain-relieving medications and antibiotics.
Still on health, Natasha Kofi is a 9-year-old pupil who is suffering from a congenital eye defect that requires corrective surgery. Doctors say the surgery, known as corneal topography, will cost 13,000 Ghana cedis.
Corneal topography is a non-invasive medical imaging technique for mapping the surface curvature of the cornea, which is the outer structure of the eye. Natasha is unable to see properly because of a defect of the eye. Her condition is affecting her studies, and doctors say she's gradually losing her sight.
I want all my people should help me so that I go to school and continue my education.
Natasha is appealing to the public to help her raise 13,000 cedis required for the surgery. The public can send their contributions to Fidelity Bank account number 400-211-999-1401. No amount is too little.
This segment was proudly brought to you by Vita.
Yeah, we can go.
Do apologize for the earlier technical hitch. Let's go back to our first story, where former presidents John Kufuor and Jerry John Rawlings have paid glowing tributes to the late coach Sam Ade, describing him as brilliant. This was when a delegation from the bereaved family paid a courtesy call on the 2 former presidents. The delegation from the Ade and Herman's families called on the former president, John Ajekunkufo, to officially inform him of the death of their beloved son and ex-national team coach Sam Ade. The sad event occurred on Sunday, 12 February 2017 at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital after a short illness. Coach Ade, affectionately called the multi-system man, was a retired superintendent of police. As an accomplished coach, he guided various Ghanaian national teams to international success. Their spokesperson for the family, Mr. Ernest Ade, said Friday 7th April is the date for the burial, which will take place at the forecourt of the State House in Accra.
As our custom demands, it's absolutely important that we come and inform you of what has happened, because we also do know that you have a very special relationship with him. So we're here to inform you, as the former head of state, our own father, that your junior brother has indeed passed on to glory.
Ex-President Kufuor shared some fond memories of the late coach.
He was one of the few coaches that really used scientific coaching to move our teams to excel internationally. That's why when I got the chance to head our country, the president of Ghana, and I decided to extend honor to deserving Ghanaians, looking at the sports end, I picked him readily and conferred the order of the nation on him. He lived his life excellently, and this is why I believe Ghana is mourning him. And I want the family to know that my heart is with all of you.
From there, the family visited ex-President Jerry John Rawlings at his ridge residence in Accra. Ex-President Rawlings spoke about the late coach's humility and discipline. Sam Ade died at the age of 71. He will be buried at the Osu Cemetery. The national bodybuilding team, the Black Muscles, have stepped up preparations for the upcoming Arnold Classic, the World Bodybuilding Championships. The African edition will be staged in South Africa in May this year. These are members of the national bodybuilding team, the Black Muscles. They have kick-started their preparations for the upcoming Arnold Classic Africa Championships. The team has adopted the Body Fitness Center Gymnasium in Dansoman as their training base. Our cameras caught up with them in the course of their training. The team was being led by the technical head, Eko Martin, and the vice president of the Ghana Bodybuilding and Fitness Association, Mr. Samuel J. The 2016-man Ghana champion, Cyril Ajakofi, who is the captain of the team, is optimistic ahead of the championship.
I always prepare. I'm not waiting for event to come before prepare. I want to show the whole world that I have something inside me that push forward. So I'm ready for the South Africa competition.
A member of the team, Gabriel Frimpong, said he wants to improve on his performance on his second attempt.
For me, last year was a motivation for me. What I expected, I didn't get what I expected, but that tells me that I should go back to the whiteboard and do my homeworks properly. And with this kind of preparation towards the Arnold Classic 2017, I know we're going to bring some trophies home.
The vice president of the Ghana Bodybuilding and Fitness Association, Mr. Samuel J, said he is impressed with the commitment by the athletes.
This year, with the preparation that we have, the technical team is on point and everything is being done. Conditioning is in proper form, diets and nutrition, everything is in proper form. So definitely for medals, Ghana should watch out for lots of medals, lot medals from this crop of athletes.
The 2017 Arnold Classic Africa Championship comes off from the 5th to the 7th of May this year in Johannesburg, South Africa. The World Boxing Council WBC has awarded President Nana Akufo-Addo with a special belt for his involvement in the sport. The presentation was done by the WBC Vice President during the Freedom Night fight at the Bukom Boxing Arena. The night was also graced by ex-President Jerry John Rawlings, some ministers of state and members of parliament.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, good evening. Time for some art news. My name is Valerie Danso. As part of Ghana's 60th anniversary celebrations, the 5th edition of Ghana Culture Day has been held. Ghana Culture Day is celebrated annually and brings together industry players to remind Ghanaians of our rich culture and to showcase made in Ghana goods.
There were different people from different backgrounds exhibiting the rich Ghanaian culture. Prince the Painter was spotted painting the map of Ghana. There were models portraying the beauty of the African woman. Spoken word artists Fapimpong and Akambo thrilled the guests.
The school was composed sets of Mother Ghana's children, the MPP and NDC. The Mother Ghana's own maternal wisdom always gives these two terms in office.
Held in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, every March 14 is set aside to highlight Ghana's rich cultural heritage and creative industry. Delivering the keynote address, the special guest of honor, Mr. Yao Safo Mafu, said, "It is essential we uphold our culture to help generate more investors and tourists into the country." The Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Mrs. Catherine Afeku, said she will not relent in promoting the rich culture of Ghana to the rest of the world.
I can assure you that this government is determined to see to the completion of all the abandoned regional centers of national culture and commence a program of establishing fully functional centers for national culture in all the regional capitals. National cultural institutions such as this edifice hosting us today, the Du Bois Memorial Center, the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, and others will receive concentrated attention for refocusing the various programs run by these institutions. They do need a facelift.
A play to instill discipline into the younger generation was staged by the National Drama Company.
Hello, madam. We are in the 21st century. Excuse me.
Culture Day provided the opportunity for sharing ideas on policies and actions in the sector.
As part of the Ghana Culture Day celebration, some painters were tasked to paint the various heads of states of the country. The paintings were mounted on the pavements in front of the National Theatre.
Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah led Ghana to independence from Britain in 1957 and served as the first Prime Minister and President. Kofi Abrefa Buzia was Prime Minister of Ghana from 1969 to 1972. Hilary Liman was the President of Ghana from the 24th of September 1979 to the 31st of December 1981. Jerry John Rawlings is a former head of state and President of Ghana. Rawlings came to power as a flight lieutenant of the Ghana Air Force following a coup d'etat in 1989. John Evans Fifi Atamils served as President of Ghana from 2009 to 2012. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is the incumbent President of Ghana. Made in Ghana products are on exhibition at the National Theatre.
That's all in this segment. Have a good evening.
Today's cultural practices are mistletoe removal and canal and gutter cutting. Mistletoe removal. Mistletoe is a plant that parasites nutrients from the tree. If not removed immediately, the mistletoe will multiply, killing off many of your cocoa trees. Cut or remove mistletoe completely from the knot where the mistletoe is attached to the cocoa tree, otherwise it will grow back. Use a cutlass or harvesting hook to remove the canopies from the main tree to ensure adequate intake of nutrients by the cocoa trees. Canal and gutter cutting. If your farm is easily flooded during the rainy season, you should dig canals and gutters so that the water flows away from the farm. This will create the right atmosphere needed for healthy pod formation.
And that has been the weather. Do enjoy the rest of our interesting lineup for you. Good evening.
Well, it's been an hour of news. Thanks so much for staying with us.